Can I translate crowd noise for you?
Sure.
MVP! MVP! All right, Nick, is Russell Wilson running away with the Most Valuable Player award?
I say absolutely yes. Now, there's almost as much of the season left as we've played. There's 7 weeks left in the year. For Seattle, it's 6 games, so an enormous amount can happen, obviously. But through 10 weeks, he's the favorite if you want to gamble on it, and he should be the overwhelming favorite for the voters. Now, I felt like, I don't believe in jinxes, but if I did, I would have felt like I jinxed Russ yesterday because he was playing a brilliant game, making no mistakes. They're about to win in overtime. I tweet, he's running away. With respect to Lamar Jackson, it's Russell Wilson and nobody else is close. As I hit send, he throws the one bad pass.
So it was your fault.
I don't believe in those types of things, but the timing was spooky on it. But here's how great he's been. That mistake was shocking. I couldn't believe it happened. No matter, Patrick Mahomes, the guy we were just talking about, it's not shocking when he makes a mistake. You expect him to overcome it, but every other quarterback in football, you're like, okay, you know, not once a game, but once every couple of games, so he might put the ball on the ground, might have a misread. Russell Wilson's made 2 mistakes this year that I can remember off the top of my head. The pass that Marcus Peters picked off and took the other way, which was an enormous moment in that football game, and the play last night that he found a way to overcome. And he's doing it once again, Canty, with not a who's who, but a who's that? Like this Hollister kid out of Wyoming, I'm not familiar with his work. He had turned Disley into a Pro Bowl level tight end before he
Tyler Lockett, we weren't talking about.
Tyler Lockett, he started to lean on last year and turning Lockett into a #1 receiver in this league. He loses Doug Baldwin, no problem. DK Metcalf, be the most productive rookie wide receiver this year. Josh Gordon yesterday. 2 huge third downs. Russ puts it where he can't drop the football. And so the Seattle Seahawks this year, this is a pretty shocking number. 7 times they've allowed their opposition to score at least 24 points. The NFL teams this year win 28% of those games. They are 5-2, the best record in the league in those situations by far. You know why? Because through 10 weeks, they have the best player in the league, the player who's playing the best in the league, and the best quarterback in the league, and that's Russell Wilson.
You know what? And probably the most impressive part of Russell Wilson's performance last night was surviving that 49ers defensive line, who had 3 third-down sacks. I think he was sacked a total of 5 times. But they were getting after Russell Wilson, but it didn't faze him, Jenna.
Nope.
He found a way to make plays when his team needed him to. That overtime drive, that was his 5th game-winning drive this season, 28th of his career. I mean, Russell Wilson has routinely done this. So when you have the conversation about the best quarterbacks or the most valuable players, I mean, I have a hard time believing that if you take Russell Wilson off of his team, that you can just, I'll put it to you this way. Russell Wilson means more to the Seattle Seahawks than almost any other player in the National Football League means to their team. I mean, the replacement level of Russell Wilson it would be tough to do. The Seattle Seahawks, if you were to take him off of that team, they're not a playoff team. But because he's their quarterback, you're talking about them being a championship contender. Now, I know you don't like to look at wins and losses as a quarterback record, but in this situation, I think it's applicable just because Russell Wilson routinely puts his team in position to be able to win games. And even though he made that mistake, the interception in overtime, which never happens, by the way, that's only the 2nd time in the last 25 seasons, Russell Wilson finds a way to overcome it. And so that's why I have to look at this Seattle Seahawks team, especially the way that the defense is playing, through a different lens than I did in the first half of this year.
When you look at Lamar, Mahomes, Rodgers, Brady, you can look at each of them and say, oh, I know what they do really, really well. I know what makes them special. But what makes Russell Wilson so good? Is it the accuracy? Is it his mobility? Is it his intelligence? Like, what makes him such a great player?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of those things, but Russell Wilson has this knack for being able to extend the down and allow his receivers time to uncover. Nick talks about the cast of characters that he's working with and not having any dominant skill position players. Well, I mean, those guys all of a sudden become a lot better when your quarterback is buying you an extra second or two to uncover downfield from defenders. Guys get lost. I mean, they run the scramble drill, and Russell Wilson has the ability to be able to find those guys. And, Jenna, it always feels like Russell Wilson is playing within himself. It doesn't feel like a defense can get him rattled. He doesn't do things in terms of making mistakes at critical points in the game. Even though we saw it last night, he was able to overcome it. So, to me, that's probably the thing that makes him special when you start talking about the best quarterbacks in the game, having that ability to elevate the play of everybody around him.
And when it comes to intangibles, Russell Wilson, and I mean this seriously, I'm not poking fun. Russell Wilson believes he's been touched by God in this regard, and he makes other people believe it. He makes believers out of non-believers because of his everlasting faith that we're going to be fine.
He's an evangelist now?
No, but if you listen to him after the game, he honestly, dating back to the comeback against the Packers in the NFC Championship game, the things that he says, even if you don't believe, you're like, I mean, he believes it so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do this in 60 seconds here quickly. I'm glad people are finally catching up to this, because this is who Russell Wilson's been every day of his NFL career. In 2012, he comes in as a rookie, leads them to the playoffs. They're down 14-0 in the first round of the playoffs, leads a comeback for a win. Divisional round, same year as rookie year. They're down 10-0 at halftime. With 30 seconds left in that game, they're up 28-27, only don't win because of a Matt Bryant field goal. The next year, they win the Super Bowl. The next year, they're a yard away from winning the Super Bowl. His fourth year, they get back to the divisional round. He leads the NFL in passer rating. The following year, his now fifth year, they're in the divisional round again. His sixth year, he leads the NFL in touchdown passes. It's a rebuilding year for Seattle. They still are above 500. His seventh year, they go back to the playoffs. He has 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a 111 passer rating. And this year, he's going to win the damn league MVP. This is a guy, the trajectory of one of the greatest players in league history. And we are seeing it on full display. And if you've been paying attention, we've been seeing it since the day he stepped onto the training camp field and took that job from Matt Flynn.
It's such a good point, and has so much when we talk about Tom Brady is who Tom Brady is, but he's had the benefit of working with Bill Belichick. Russell Wilson's had the benefit of working with Pete Carroll, and together they are probably the second best quarterback-coach tandem in the league right now. All right, take a break. Coming up, are the Dallas Cowboys going to miss the playoffs? That's ahead on First Things First.
Said second.